the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Before you get started with the meeting, I'd like to make a request to change an agenda item. Our legal counsel had another commitment to make, and we'd also like to be here during the consolidation discussion. So we're requesting if possible to move the consolidation discussion to be the first item of the business as opposed to the last one. So I'll take a motion.
I will make a motion to move the consolidation conversation to first under new business.
Aye, second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we will get rolling. We do have a quorum. We'll start with the consent agenda. Anybody want to make a change?
No.
Just a motion to approve.
I move to accept the consent agenda.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Okay, next up, we have the public hearing for the 2023 Township budget.
By law, we have advertised it in the gateway, which we're required to do, and we advertise it for 3 o'clock today. And that's kind of what we put it, so you need to state the time to open it.
Okay, we will open the budget for discussion now. Okay. Okay, with no comment on the 23 Township budget, we move to the public hearing for the additional appropriations.
That was advertised in the Republican in the required time, and you have a copy of that in the board packet.
So we'll open it for 1 minute for any discussion on the additional appropriations. Okay. With no comment, we move on to liaison reports. We'll start off with Ken.
Okay, the last couple of meetings, they have been presented with applications for some rezoning, annexation petitions for basically single developments. And then at the last town council meeting was recognition of Chief Stoops for his years of service there, and that was there was a couple of presentations there that were really indicative of what kind of police chief he has become. So it was very, very good, very good.
Good. Thank you.
Avon School.
Scott had a couple of updates for us. He wanted to let everybody know that Krista Fay, their school counseling and mental wellness coordinator, was recognized recently as the state school social worker of the year. So they are very proud of her. And then Chase Lyday, their police chief, was recognized by the National Association of School Resource Officers as their instructor of the year. Chase provides great trainings to officers around the country, and then he brings that expertise to lead the school department. So they're really excited for him to receive that national honor as well. So very cool.
I don't have any, do you have any library updates? We'll head to department reports, township assistance.
So for the month of August, we had $4,535 pledged. Year-to-date, $30,795. We've had denied 16,611, total denied 83,424. Those denials were based on information not returned, termination, somebody terminated. And we did give out some school clothes too. So.
Okay. Human resources.
For the month of August, we have 3 new hires, 2 at the parks, a part-time groundskeeper and a full-time recreation coordinator. We also hired on 1 more firefighter. We are in the process to start 4 EMTs and paramedics on 10/10. We are still looking for a few more spots and hiring for camp counselors for parks. Any questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you. Next up, community engagement.
Bring my phone up this time so I don't forget anything. In August, we had our second session of the Greater Avon Citizens Academy, and then we actually had our third session just this last week. So they learned about the township and the town as a whole, and kind of the government leadership. And then they had the fire department, which was session 2, and then the schools and Scott Wyndham and Mr. Shockley from the high school gave a good presentation just last week. So we'll be moving forward with that, and the next session is township assistance and public works, and that will be hosted at the town hall. We also had the Project Lifesaver Conference the last week of August, and Julia from fire department, myself, and Assistant Chief Native from the police department went down there and learned about some new technology and new things that we can do for Project Lifesaver, as well as I presented there on how other Project Lifesaver agencies can start promoting their programs on social media and having fundraisers and writing grants and that kind of stuff to help them grow their agencies as well. Been doing a lot with the Parks Department lately. We've got, we just had the Medieval Festival, we've got Ghosts and Goblins coming up, the Harvest Moon Festival, Fall Break Camp is coming, and like I said, I think in the last board meeting, we're thinking about Penguin Park and ice skating. So there's a lot going on at the park, which is keeping us busy and getting all the word out there to the community and promoting all the different programs that we have to offer. So, questions on this? Okay, thank you.
Okay, Parks and Recreation.
Okay, like I mentioned in my report, now that school is back in session, our naturalist is providing STEM classes to our homeschool group, which has quickly become our biggest volunteer group as well. And they'll be starting on planting our rain garden here in the fall, and then also our camp will be doing that too. Camp is starting, our fall break camp will be starting this next month. So we're seeing the camp registrations bump up again. And then we hosted the Northern District meeting at Murphy Aquatic Park, and then we were selected for 2 different education sessions for the state conference this year in November. And then we also extended our camping at Pecar Park and Pock Woods, and so we've seen a big increase in that as well. People really enjoy camping in the fall. And then we've also made new campsites at Park Woods. And then as far as our events, you can see we had lots of events in the end of August and beginning of September. We're also seeing a big increase in our rentals as well. And then as of today, or as of the end of August, we're at 124% of our revenue goal. Any questions?
I saw some pictures a few days ago about a whole bunch of playground equipment pieces laying on the ground. What's the timing of the
For the
installation of the
Murphy playground?
Murphy playground?
That is one of my favorite things to email about. So they got started last week. When the playground company came out, they found out that they're missing one part, that apparently they need to put most of the equipment together. So now it's on a 2-week delay, and so we should start seeing it again in 2 weeks, but it has moved from one area of the parking lot to the actual location of the playground now.
I drove back from Plainfield at lunch, so,
Yes,
so
you
I,
can see the zip line up, that's
yes,
about all that's up right now.
yeah, very little and not any activity, so
Yeah.
that's why I asked.
Yeah, but we email about it every week.
You mean, all that time it was sitting there, they haven't bothered to check to see if they have any?
Yep.
Awesome.
Any other questions?
No, I thought it would be productive behind
Thank you.
this. Thank you. All right, fire.
I put in my report that last couple of weeks ago, Chief Al and I had lunch with our company that's building our new medic that we're waiting for Station 144, and we were advised that it should be in sometime middle of October, so we'll get that in service once that's here. Recruit class is going well. Last week they were at Fire Department Training Network for a week, having live fires. And I mentioned to the board that our recruit graduation's October 21st, if you put that on your schedules at the Army campus at 6 o'clock. So we'd like to have you there if you can. Couple things I wanted to clarify on the budget. Number one, Steve, you specifically brought up the question about Project Lifesaver. I did talk to the career fire chiefs in the county and gotten verification back from 2 other chiefs that will be in a line item in their budget. They didn't stipulate how much that would be, but other than us, there should be at least 3 of us total that are going to make that a part of our budget. And Britt did fix the numbers on the salaries that she sent out, and that's projecting a 7% raise for our people for next year. A couple of months ago, Shane had raised a question about the fees that we charge for plans review, and I put in my report that that's kind of a hard thing to quantify because we're one of the few departments that has the manpower and the ability to do it, but just without getting into the weeds, we're pretty competitive in the market as far as what we charge, and now's a good time for us to be taking advantage of that because we charge per square foot. So with the new big buildings that are going up, legalized bringing in quite a bit of money to the fire department and to the township with that. Station 144, we're still waiting on our generator to get delivered, but other than that, pretty much everything's done. Last week we had some juniors from the high school here doing a day of caring. They did some landscaping work. If you'll notice when you leave on the right-hand side, there's an area between the drive and this fence that we put gravel down that whole area. They did a lot of landscaping and weeding around the property. We sent the school a thank you certificate, and I sent the principal there a thank you note to thank him for having us people here. They did a great job. Training grounds coming along good. We got the fence installed last week, so we are finally secured over there to where we can lock the facility. And last, we're working on getting the quint spec for Station 144 that we have in the Q budget plan for Station 144, and we're working with the attorney to try to get to the timeline figured out on that. But right now they're telling us it's about a 24-month project. 18 to 24 months. Closing, I want to recognize Lieutenant Mark Miller, chauffeur Matt Sheets, and Joe Ballerini. I'll just read the entry that Lieutenant Miller put into Guardian Tracking. He said Engine 143 and Medic 143 were dispatched for an injured person from a fall from the ladder after taking care of the patient and getting Medic 143 en route to the hospital. Engine 143 crews finished installing the light on the garage for the gentleman that had fallen from his ladder. So he wanted to recognize his people and give them that award for the good work that they did. So, any questions I can answer? Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Don, you were up, trustee report.
Okay, besides the other things I always cover in my report about the meeting, other things I added was that the 2023 township budget was entered on Friday, September 9th, in the Gateway. That budget did show the raises and made the appropriate payroll changes for other departments that presented at the September 8th budget workshop. As discussed at the budget workshop by Deputy Trustee Woodard, the budget does show the requirement, the State Board of Accounts is requiring all townships to enter their lit money into township general only. And therefore, part of the township fire department budget and part of the parks department budget is in general, as opposed to being in those two departments. Appropriation reports next year will show the regular reports on the various departments, but unfortunately, and I've talked to our legislators about this, I'm hoping we'll get a change for us, but until then, because all the income tax money will be put in township general only, we have to show it that way, and she's worked very closely with the financial advisor Peter on it, so that's why it's advertised the way it is. The 2022 Township Employee Christmas Party will be held December 9th. If you put that on your calendar at the Park Pavilion, it'll be a casino theme again with a sit-down dinner, open bar, door party, the D-Day, and photo booth. The 2022 Township Employee of the Year will be announced that evening, and the entire party is being paid for with donation sponsorship money. No taxpayer money. I wanted to announce that when I came into office, and Pat will attest to this, we had no transition. We were just introduced to the employees, and that was it. And by law, technically, all I have to do is give the keys to the new guy along with the checkbook and leave. But obviously, that's not the right thing to do. So I've been planning a transition and putting that together. The department heads have been working with me on that. Whoever's elected on November the 8th, on the 9th, will be invited to start doing a training session with us. We'll even offer office space, in the building here and that type of stuff, and do it the right way. So that whenever they take office on January 1, they will have as much knowledge as possible that I can pass on, along with the help of the department heads, legal counsel, financial advisor, etc., so that they can get the ground running. So I want to announce that. The purchase agreement and deed affidavit for the cemetery for North Lawn was finalized by legal and is now open for purchasing. I've had a couple of inquiries, so we have that now available for the public that wants to possibly look into that. Finally, we did locate one piece of property that we possibly could be bringing to you for approval later on. As required, though, 2 appraisals have been ordered. I've already gotten one of them, and the other one I've been told I'll get for next week. And so after we get that, we'll see what it is, have Clarence go make the offer to them and see if they will sell it for that price. We can only do the average of the appraisal, so we'll see how it comes out. But it's in the southern part of the township, and fire has identified that as a prime spot for helping with the response time on the location. So I'm going to go with it, especially about that, so that's good.
Any questions for that? No. Okay. In old business, we had the special township transportation project update.
So we had a meeting a week ago, I guess, and Shane and I met along with the 2 township trustee candidates, along with the Elmores, and then along with Maria Cruz with Senior Services that has Link. For those of you who haven't heard, we're looking at doing a special transportation vehicle for township residents, for folks that don't have the ability to drive, you'll be able to go to work and that kind of stuff, and set up through Link. We will own the vehicle, we'll pay the cost, but Nick will administer it and take care of it. And obviously, in order to do this, I wanted to make sure that, somebody would be here to, agree to administer it and that type of stuff. And I have both the volumes of both township candidates, trustee candidates, so they were involved in that process. And so the status right now, we're looking for a vehicle, and the other thing is I just got the proposed agreement from senior services. I did forward that over to our legal counsel for review, so just did that yesterday, or today, so anyway, don't have it, we can start reviewing it, so they'll give you an update.
Everybody on that?
Yes.
Do you want to give any kind of indication of what the cost of the vehicles is looking at based on?
Yeah, probably be anywhere from 50 to 70, depending, because we need to have a ramp and that, we're not gonna be looking at, wheelchair type thing, but because it already has that, but more so for the ramp and that stuff, so.
Yeah, it would still be wheelchair accessible to the vehicle. Used looks like anywhere from low 50 to a new one at 70-ish. That's just a ramp to hold down. You can get a wheelchair. It's not
So the cost for administering the program, the whole thing, we estimated to be about 80,000. This will be a 2-year trial period, so after the end of 2 years, the township will look at it and see, what they want to do. What they want to continue.
And that vehicle will be serviced here in our garage.
I didn't see the agreement, but I think that's part of the vehicle meeting, that would be part of it. Okay, then financial updates on Murphy and
And do you guys have any questions about that? We are under budget on both.
all contingencies are done.
Yeah, the only thing we have left on the water park is the playground.
We have a few things that
Yeah.
we're just tidying up, like the pedestrian trail, a couple punch list items that still need finished, just minor things that are setbacks, basically. A couple parts that haven't come in yet, and then the playground. So just minor stuff.
But both projects are under budget, and we'll continue.
Good. Okay, and new business, we're gonna reshuffle as Don said, so we'll talk about the reorganization petition.
Good afternoon, members of the board. For your record, Jeff Bellamy, your counsel. Coincidentally, not ironically, I started this morning at 8:30 at the Sheridan in Keystone at the Crossing for the ITA conference, teaching mergers, interlocal cooperation, and government reorganization. So we can go into the abstract to the specific with what you're dealing with here. So you've been given a citizen petition. We've already verified that it is regular in that it qualifies for the percentage. And then in the meantime, July, August, we received notice that the other unit, the town of Avon, has passed a resolution inviting the township to join them in the process of exploring municipal reorganization. So what's that mean? What do you need to accomplish here in the next little bit in terms of having received that invitation? And so you need to conduct a public hearing. And sometimes you hear me talk about, and a lot of others who aren't public policy or local government nerds like me, will interchange public meeting with public hearing. Right now you're having a public meeting where you discuss with those you invite and discuss among yourselves these issues you put on your agenda. The public hearing will be for the purposes of allowing your constituents, for, against, indifferent, whatever, to come and testify to you, present information, inform you about what they think maybe you should do in relation to receiving this request. The statute provides 3 definite courses that you can pursue. We'll talk about those in a second. What I think is meaningful for you to do today is determine when you're going to have that public hearing. Is it going to be a special meeting? What kind of time do you think you need to allow to get the commentary that you want to receive? I have no idea if you're getting any informal commentary or people just acknowledging interest that want to come talk to you, but make sure that you plan time accordingly. And then have some sense, particularly as chair, as to how you want to run that meeting and how you want to apportion time. Where we have entities that have lots and lots and lots of hearings, boards and zoning appeals, APC commissions, things like that, is what Mr. Blacker was commenting on. They'll have rules of procedure for those kinds of things. You really don't. You're just going to have this one-of-one hearing. So kind of give some thought to how you want to run it. What's an efficient way to get this data to you so you can make your decision and allow people to express themselves. Meeting structure, I don't know if you want to have it as a special meeting that's adjacent or adjunct or after another meeting you already have set. Do you feel that there's going to be adequate time? Practically, you're all human, you all have lives and families and businesses and things like that. Got to find a time where all of you can meet. This facility is ready. Don's here, staff's here, I can be here. Some schedules to coordinate. So, picking a time and making sure it works for everybody. And I think it's when you want to make sure you have a full board because it's serious. It's an important issue, and I know it's been informally discussed. We've had collaboration meetings. It's been addressed years ago as reviewed and not pursued. So we've got the when. You talk a little bit about the how, and then the what, the result. And the result of this proposal is there are three things that the statute allows you to do. Specifically states you can have the public hearing, and once you have the public hearing within 30 days, you can do it right then. You could say, hey, we've heard the testimony, I want to deliberate on it, and I want to think about it away from this, I want to look at some things myself privately. But within 30 days, you have to reconvene and make a decision. And the statute gives you three courses you can pursue. You can say, I've heard enough, or I've not heard enough. Whatever your directive is, and you can individually vote to reject the proposal. If a majority of the board rejects the proposal, then that's the end of this process. You can agree to pursue the plan of reorganization. And then that goes down a whole other avenue of the statute where the two bodies jointly, no longer a reorg committee, both bodies jointly have lots of work to do. And that's something that you practically need to think about. Don's comments, good on Don. I wish more trustees did this when they retire or step away, work toward transition, because if you go down that road, I know you guys work super hard with your meeting attendance and collaboration meetings and all that. Get ready. You're going to do that much and more because there's going to be a lot of work going into that. Who's going to do that? Who has time? Who has the availability? And who has the experience to develop those plans? Both bodies will need to hear about that and determine they have the financial capacity and experience to do that. And there's probably a planning capacity, not necessarily engineering, but engineering type firms will have planning elements to them. There's a lot of capital items you need to figure out. Perhaps debt between two units. You got to deal with all those things. And there's a price tag to that. That group that does that work will not want to do that by donation or pro bono. So lots of work in all of that process. Try to get some estimates and plans and how those organizations can work you into their 2023 schedule. And then you get to all of that plan, and then you'll come back to the issue again. Do we want to adopt this plan and reorganize according to the plan? You can accept or reject that plan at that time. If you reject that plan, then it goes down an even further road, which perhaps public question, perhaps not, just depends. At this stage, it's to determine reject, agree to pursue the plan, or a third option. And that third option would be you would counter back with your own resolution and say, I think we omitted a necessary unit. I think we omitted a subdivision of government we need to include in. I don't know if that's available here, if there's someone else you would include into that proposal, but that's just what the statute provides, that there would be a third. That's what the statute requires. You could, if you decided at this stage you didn't have enough information after the public hearing, reject and this. I don't know. You have to determine what you hear and make your decision. So those are the three things that you must do within the 30 days. That doesn't mean that if there's some middle way in there that comes out of these sessions that might be in your knowledge from attending all these collaborations, that you can't look at an alternative. Those are the things you have to do within 30 days, A, B, or C. So I'm happy to answer any questions. I think what ought to come out of today is when and how. Can't do what. You got to have the public hearing first. Let folks know what, particularly stakeholders. There are people that are interested, I'm sure. Let them come in and tell you what they think. But I think we need to define when and how. Anybody that does any public work in Hendricks County knows Betty needs the stuff earlier than a lot of other places. So, 5 days minimum notice, but if we say, hey, October 3rd looks great, probably not. I don't think you're going to get it over there and published in time. So we need to figure out what works in terms of schedules. And that's and then if you wanted to set any kind of ground rules of how that hearing might work, whether it's a special meeting or it's going to be separate from an existing meeting. Happy to answer your
For
question.
the answer on the legal news, the Republican is the one that we use because that's probably the only newspaper that's still around. They publish on Thursdays, and I believe they need everything by the Monday before, so you keep that in mind. He's told you need a 5-day, notice to the taxpayer, to the citizen, to publish, to all the towns before, and set that up, and then obviously we'll do it by social media too, but we'll require by law to set a legal notice, just like you did for your budget hearing and for your additional appropriation hearing. So keep that in mind too, so.
So, we'll start. It would probably be good today to set the when for the public hearing. So, I don't know if there's time.
And keep in mind, whatever date you come up with, within 30 days, you have to make a decision.
Okay.
Because they get that same day, but up by within 30 days, if you have it already made a decision.
Well, we have already coming up as well, so we'll be working on that. And then I want to clarify these three, just so we're all super clear. So reject, I understand that. The second one, you said agree to pursue the plan of consolidation. Is that just doing the research, and then once the research is done, we can reject or approve? Or is it we're agreeing to move forward with
You will have-
consolidation?
You will have the opportunity, if you do the plan, to agree to pursue it, adopt it, or reject it at a later hearing. If you do that, though, that does open the door that even if you find that the results of the plan are objectionable, impacts are too substantial to other units, gaps in services are too substantial, answers were not created as to how what you do is going to get adequately addressed in the future entity, whatever your reasons are. I just don't like it. I got elected to be on a township board, we're a township, whatever, your choices. There is the possibility, though, that in spite of the results of the plan, or if you reject it, it can still become a public question. And then taken, and the court would essentially adopt it as a result of the public question. So it would then go to referendum.
But the plan, once you come up with it, both bodies individually have to hold two public hearings, I believe, unless the law has changed. We got a guy that probably helped write that law sitting out here in the audience.
Two.
So, answer a lot of questions too. So, if you make a decision, after this public hearing, you're not committee already, so. And then once it goes to referendum, then it requires a 51% majority of the unincorporated, and 51% of the present incorporated town to pass. You can already, either side doesn't get that 51%, then it's dead.
All right, so right now we need to come up with a date, correct, and time?
Correct. And evening is probably best.
Yes.
Yeah, I would think for this type of situation, I would recommend that. I would also recommend that we need to make sure, the town only had 2 people come to theirs, I believe, and Ryan, correct me if I'm wrong, but one was the petitioner and one was somebody from out of town that was curious about it. But I have had people inquire about it. I believe that there will be people from the unincorporated area come, and whether they'll speak in favor or opposed, I don't know. I think we need, as a backup plan, if that happens, we need to be also to have another location if need be. And I've told Laura that whatever date we come up with to check and see if the pavilion is available too. Doesn't mean we have to do it there. We can keep the school in the school. I'm not saying, well, I don't know. I think we might have more people, showing up for this one. I don't know. I've had people inquire too, about it.
Okay, let's look to set a date, obviously fall break coming into the next year. First week of October, personally not good for me, but, so that would mean the week of October 24th. With the thought, with my statement being that week, then a decision is made at the November.
You have a board meeting on the 15th of November, yes.
Right.
You don't have to do it there, you have a special meeting.
Okay.
So what are we doing, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday?
Monday night, Tuesday or Wednesday, fine for me. Does that work for?
Monday, Tuesday.
26.
25,
I think if you have a 6:30, it'll be okay too. You don't have to wait to 7:30, I'll be 6:30.
All right, so we shoot for the 25th at 6:30.
Or is that available?
No, we only have Wednesday. Monday and Wednesday.
I can do Wednesday.
Yeah, Wednesday.
So the 26th of October?
Yep.
And what time?
6:30.
And are we already moving it over to the pavilion or just having it as a backup?
Jeff, how much notice do we have to give if we find out that, 100 people show up here at this building? I'm not saying we will, but I mean, if we had 100 people show up at this building, obviously we can't do that, so. And are we allowed to move it somewhere else?
So long as you give them adequate notice that you're moving it over there. The problem is they're all gonna show up at 6:25 and then you're gonna drop back. I just say, have it somewhere where you can,
Okay, just host it at the pavilion.
where you can have it, and get the meeting concluded.
Okay, so let's do it at the Park Pavilion then, and can you write up that legal notice for us? Laura, the address for the Park Pavilion is?
It's not available.
That quick, huh?
What is available?
Monday,
Tuesday is available.
Tuesday's available? Why are you saying no?
well, are we wanting small room or big room?
I think we want the main.
Big room.
Main room.
Monday.
The 24th? Who said no to Monday? You?
We can do Thursday, I'll just skip the other things.
Thursday the 27th?
27?
The 27th, that's the
No.
school board candidate forum.
No.
Monday, that week is Monday.
All right, let's just do the 25th here. And if people want to come in, they can stay in the hallway and come in. I mean, if the town had 2, I can't imagine we're gonna have 150 people show up. And if they do, then they can.
Okay, so the 20,
Otherwise, we're just gonna keep kicking this along.
okay, so
We
what
find a venue.
day did you say?
Back to the 25th.
Okay. the
I mean,
25th.
I said that kind of verbally,
You did. All
It's
right.
okay.
25th at 6:30, Jeff, and if you'll write up a legal notice for us and get it to Rich, to put it in the Republic.
6:30,
Yeah,
right?
Yep, 6:30. Right.
Is there any member that absolutely needs to be here that cannot do that date and time? Jeff, you got that?
You okay with that, Dave?
You good with that?
Yeah.
Five, and Rick, on the new one.
Right, you good with that?
Do you want to say travel rules? Will we have
Is
them?
that something, can we just, can the chairman discuss ground rules with you?
Sure.
After the fact, how does that work?
If you want to just anytime before, and then you just kind of do the rules of the meeting. And it's just, I think what we can do is have some contingency. I've been to territory meetings that the next day are on the cover of the Hartsville newspaper. This is perhaps the worst meetings I've ever been to. And then others where, you know, you anticipate a lot and it's a pleasant 8 people with thoughtful comments and you're in and out. You don't know. And so I think what you want to do is, if you do get a lot of folks, we'll come up with something so everyone can have some adequate time, both public, and I think we want to talk a little bit about, you may have stakeholders that want to come and present in 2 minutes or 5 minutes or whatever, whether it's school, library, another unit, another department within the department. I have no idea. If they want to express things to you, it may be worthwhile that, you know, we're going to need a little more time for all of them. At the same time, not that this didn't happen with the Liberty proposed territory, but sometimes hearing the same comment 8th and 9th time in a row, though relevant, doesn't inform you, delays the meeting, and that, you know, doesn't get dated to you other than it just restates the comment. So,
I think
we'll come up with,
two of you come up with the rules, and then when you have to open the meeting, you cover the rules as the chairman, and that way everybody sitting in the room will know what the rules are.
Anything else?
No, I'm understand.
Any other questions for Jeff?
Thank you for accommodating.
Thank you.
thank you for accommodating me. I appreciate it a lot. Thanks.
No problem.
You're running around like crazy today.
Okay, back up to, new business resolution 092022-01, additional appropriations.
So we have the additional appropriation that was advertised in the Republican, our financial advisor prepared it. It's broken down, I had it here a minute ago. Right up there. real quick. There it is. So the additional appropriations, under general, it was $3,135,000, and that's to cover the health cover for the defeasance we were talking about next. Rainy day for $465,000 again, that'll help with the defeasance. Q Fire, $127,406, and then recreation, $185,476. The Q Fire was reimbursement coming out from the fire bond, so obviously, they should take that money, it was already budgeted before, but we're putting it back and using it, because we used it to pay fire station 144. And then of 185,476, how much was reimbursement for the bond? How much of that was the reimbursement of the bond? Yeah.
About 55,000.
The rest of it was projects that she had. Anyway, and if it's approved, then we'll be able to do the next 2 things. And I'll send it to DLGF tomorrow and have it approved by probably tomorrow or the next day at the most. Because everything, Jeff's provided everything. And he's here if you got any questions about anything on this.
Any questions? Motion to approve.
I will make a motion to approve the additional appropriation as presented.
I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Alright. That leads us to resolution 092022-02, the series 2013 bond redemption.
So both of these bond reductions are something that, have been in the making for many, many, many years. Back when Pat and I started in office and after a couple of years and trying to clean up all the financial mess we did, we then wanted to start saving up money into defeat both bonds, especially the fire equipment bond one, which is because we didn't even have the equipment anymore. And the other one was the 2007 park one. We did, back in 13 and 14, we did redo them, with, Brian's help. And our bond counsel, Brian Lott, is here to talk about both of them and answer questions and walk us through that, so I'll turn it over to him.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Brian Bosma, the law firm of Beauregard Rodriguez, serving as your bond counsel for the last 10 years. Great to be with you. So as Don indicated, in 2013 and 2014, the township issued two sets of bonds. The 2013 bonds were general obligation bonds, which refunded some prior bonds that were outstanding. In 2014, the township issued Park District refunding bonds that refunded a group of Park District bonds that were previously issued as early as 1998 and 2004. So the refunding bonds, which were issued in 2013 and 2014, both contain what's called a defeasance provision, which means upon placing sufficient funds calculated to pay the remaining payments and redeem any bonds early that could be redeemed in an escrow, that those bonds would no longer be the obligation of the township. They would literally come off your books, even though they still are outstanding and will be paid from the escrow account. So I'll just walk through 02, and the same thing has been applied to 03 with the exception of the dollar amounts. The 2013 bonds were initially issued in the amount of $4.49 million. There's $1,085,000 of that is still outstanding. The active provision, starting with section 1, calls for the redemption of the bonds that are eligible for redemption. Now, I'm talking about two different things. You can defease bonds, which mean they're no longer your responsibility. You can also redeem bonds early, or direct a trustee to redeem bonds early if the bond ordinance contain that. So you have one outstanding payment still on the 2013 bonds which is 1/1/2023, and then the bonds, all the rest of the bonds can be redeemed early as of July 15, 2023. So those payments actually go out to 2026, but the trustee can call those bonds for redemption early and pay them off in July 15, 2023 from funds that are in the escrow agreement. That's what section 1 does. You're appointing the escrow trustee. That's your current trustee, the Bank of New York Mellon Trust Company. They do a great job and have been very helpful in putting all this together. Frequently, you appropriate funds in the resolution. You've taken care of that separately because you have other appropriations, additional appropriations that were necessary. So section 3 just says you're going to use available funds already appropriated by the township to both defease and redeem the bonds and pay costs related to that. And then you direct the trustee to use the funds that are received to purchase what are very artfully called slugs. And those are not small items on the ground, animals on the ground. Those are state and local government securities issued by the Department of the Treasury, which with Mr. Peters and the firm's help will be calculated to exactly equal the amount with the interest that you get from the slugs to make the payments when they are due. So you're authorizing and directing actually the trustee to make those purchases in accordance with Mr. Peters' instruction. That's in 4 and 5. And then there are notices that are attached to the escrow agreements, the draft escrow agreements that have been submitted to you you both have to give notice of defeasance, defease bonds, and then separately, which will happen in October for both issues, and then also notice of redemption when the time comes to redeem the bonds that can be paid early. Those dates differ for the two issuances. The 2014 bonds go out to 2027. The 2013 bonds are complete in 2026. And the redemption provision is a little later, also in the 2014 bonds. So if you pass the resolution, you've already appropriated the funds sufficient to pay to the escrow trustee. They'll be placed in an escrow agreement. The resolution is final and prepared for signature. The escrow agreement is in draft form still because there'll be some calculations that Jeff has to do that we need to fill in still. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have. September 30th is the date that we're going to close the transaction.
So this first one is for which bond?
The 2013 bonds. O2 is for the 2013 bonds.
Okay. So we've got two of them here.
Yeah, if you handle them separately, that's probably the way to do it.
Yep, need a motion on.
Resolution 32.
It's, 3 was in front of 2.
Oh, is that why?
I move we, do you have any other questions? I move we adopt resolution 09/2022 -02 series 2013 bond redemption.
I will second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
That's Amanda.
They were backwards in the packet. I was like, where is that two?
Okay, we'll go to. And then we need to do the same with resolution 3.
I will make a motion to approve resolution number 092022-03, defeasance of the 2014 bond.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I just wanted to say too, Don has been working on this for a very long time, so it's really exciting to get this done before you leave office and get all of this cleaned up, so well done.
That's enough. Good friend over there. Set that all up. On behalf of the taxpayers of Washington Township, I would like to thank you for doing this because now it's taking these two bonds off the tax rolls. Yeah, you do have the new ones, but this takes the old ones off.
Very good. Last item, the new business up is the resolution 092022-04, which is the first transfer in the fire fund.
So because we were unable to get our medic until next month, we had some staffing that we were unable to complete in the first 3 quarters of the year. So as a result of that, we have some surplus in the personnel. I just want to shift that down to capital. So cover the expenses there. So one of the things we got 5 were Lucas devices, which are like PR compression machine, and that's the compression machine needed. If anything you're able to buy, that's an unfortunate side effect of this budget.
Thanks, Don.
Okay, just need a motion to approve.
I move we adopt resolution 092022-04, authorizing appropriation of funds to be transferred within groups within a specific fund.
I will second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, that covers new business. Any public comment or wishes to be heard? Yes. Go ahead.
Yeah. I also would like to thank the board.
Just state your name.
Pat Laughlin.
Yep.
I would also like to thank the board for doing what you just did. Getting those things off the taxpayers' back, if something's overdue. I thank Don for all the work on getting that done. I'd also like to challenge you on the new bonds, especially the parking. Why don't we take some of the excess revenue and commit it to a slot, holding slot, until we can do some of this. It's 10 years before we can do that.
Should have a 10-year call period on bonds that are just issued.
So if we put a pile of money saved up in the next 10 years from excess revenue, the park, because Laura tells me she's making it like hand over fist. She's got this year covered in July, so anyway, I encourage you to try to get that in lock some way, so that when you're gone, somebody else will follow.
I agree. Thank you.
Thank you.
And Fred Pump, living 4934 East County Road, 100 South in Avon. I say Avon cautiously because I don't live in Avon. I am tremendously opposed to this possibility of consolidation. I have independently, and I represent no one other than myself, done as much research as I can deem possible, based upon what I read in the newspaper, based upon what I can obtain from the county auditor, and based upon what I can obtain from some separate readings. I understand your proposal, intent to have a public hearing. Unfortunately, as an individual, I can't attend that. So I ask nothing more than what is the best way I can express my concerns and my support. And the documents that I have accumulated to properly reflect to you my absolute belief that that is the wrong thing to do, and that there has been wrong allegations and misrepresentations made about this, and deeply concerned. So, I ask you, how's the best way I can express this? Be it in written form, be it individually, be it collectively. I'm at your beck and call, with the exception I am going to be out of the state during the month of October. So, your advice.
You want to say something?
And that's our turn.
I think he wants me to.
Oh, okay. We want to make sure.
You're board chair, if you don't want to hear from Mel.
You stood up, I was like, go ahead.
He left something out. His name's on the plaque outside. He's a former board member, and we've all been in public meetings. Jeff's been in a ton of public meetings. Responsible to a ton of public meetings. A lot of times, past board members are given some courtesies for their service to the unit they serve. I have to be kind of a stick in the mud because we haven't published for a public hearing yet. So, and the gentleman given his past service has a lot of knowledge. He sat in one of those spots, and he helped guide the ship before we arrived. So I think it is appropriate that if he wants to submit a memo, he wants to provide that information to you in advance of the hearing, we'll make sure it gets included into your record if you elect on the 25th, that you are going to vote at that later time, which I think is what we're going to do. You'll have time to review it after the fact. So I think that gives him the opportunity to present his material, respects his position as having been a former board member, and lets him get his perspectives in front of this board.
If you're okay with that, he can turn that into me, and then on the 25th, I will submit it as a formal.
Yeah, I'm sure that's what
And we'll
Yeah.
get it in the record and incorporate it into the meeting minutes for that session.
So submit what you have to the trustees. We'll cover that. Any questions we have, we can certainly.
And then we'll have 30 days to reach out for any questions.
Sure.
Right?
I appreciate it. I would like to make one comment. Sure. Because one thing addressed me as far as I was concerned personally. There was a statement made in the Gulfton newspaper, and I'm quoting, "What has changed is political landscape," Hope said. Former Washington trustee Don Hodson was the sole voice opposing consolidation last time, and his board voted it in. I would like to correct that, so there's no possible misunderstanding, and to do it here publicly in front of Don. One, Don was not the single opposed person against that resolution. Two, I served on the board, and it was not Don's board, it was the Washington Township. And they represented the people of Washington Township. And I think this belittles our entire process, and I am sorry it ever appeared in print.
Thank you. Okay. Any other public comment wishes to be heard? Okay. Our next meeting is October 4th at 3 o'clock here, where we will adopt the 2023 township budget. Please see a motion to
So moved.
Second. All right. All in favor?
Learn at 4:02.
4-2.